stood out last night?
Well, I think a number of them had a good moment. I was waiting to see if Elizabeth Warren and Bernie were going to fight each other. It was very clear they banded together to make sure that the programs that they're fighting for would be strong. And I think a number of people had good moments last night. And I think it was clear to those that think that the party's going too far to the left, that there are people that want to work together. I guess one of the messages I would have for some of what happened is you can't get there without a vision, but you got to be practical in accomplishing it.
Well, but that was part of the debate, wasn't it? With some saying, we've got to win. We can't put forward positions that will make it less likely that we get elected. Electability was front and center, Mayor. So Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, a lot of the discussion was focused and centered around their ideas, but those are ideas that some people in the Democratic Party think might be trouble in a general election.
Well, I'll say, I think both for Senator Warren as well as Senator Sanders, they did an excellent job at defending what might be the more progressive flank of the Democratic Party. I don't know if they made a pact or not. I would tend to believe that these are deeply held beliefs, and they did an excellent job at demonstrating, frankly, the grit, the imagination that's going to be required. The line by Senator Warren really resonated with me, not just at that debate stage, but beyond, because it was a signal not just to the other candidates that why in the world would you pursue this audacious goal by telling us what we're limited. John F. Kennedy didn't say, the one thing we're not going to do is go to the moon, right? He set big vision, big goal, and whether or not that was feasible at the time, he still set a high mark. And people want inspirational and aspirational. I think they did that. And I also would add, I thought that Pete Buttigieg also offered in real clear ways the fact that there are some goals out there, some higher marks that we ought to be attaining to, and let's get rid of this sort of left versus right, and quite frankly, cast a bigger vision for the country.
I thought he made a very persuasive case last night that Democrats should stop worrying what Republicans say and how Republicans are going to brand them. So let's watch that moment for a second.
It is time to stop worrying about what the Republicans will say. Look, if it's true that if we embrace a far-left agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. If we embrace a conservative agenda, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. So let's just stand up for the right policy, go out there and defend it. That's the policy I'm putting forward.
Well said. I think that you would agree. So, Mayor, what did you hear?
I agree with what the panel is saying, but I do want to caution everybody. We're not running for president of the Democratic Party. We're running for president of everybody in the United States. And ideology is really important, and setting a vision is, but you can't eat ideology for lunch. You have to put yourself in a position to win, and you have to put yourself in a position to govern. And I think you saw a lot of the candidates trying to kind of thread that needle last night and be inspirational, but yet be practical as well. I don't think that debate has been fully formed yet, and I think you'll see a little bit more of that tonight. That'll give us a little bit more perspective about what happened.
But are you saying that you saw too much pie in the sky last night?
No, not necessarily. I think they're both important. I do think that you have to set a vision, but also think that you have to win so that you can govern. And at the end of the day, the next president of the United States is going to be dealing with a Congress that's split. You actually have to be able to get things done because that's what the public is going to want. And that's really that's where real life is.
I get where the mayor's coming from. We've both been mayors, and I recognize that this conversation around what's possible and what's reality and pragmatic gets us, because we know at the end of the day we got to be accountable for the words that we say. But at this moment, running for the highest position in all the land, not just the United States, but the world, we do need to reclaim, I think, our higher positioning as a country with a president who's willing to speak boldly and courageously. And of course, this is an election. There will become a point where we start to sort of dial that thing back into what we actually might be able to accomplish. But I just love the fact that you have people who are willing to talk about big things. And just because it's big thing doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means that it hadn't happened yet, and we need a leader who's prepared.
A lot of ideas thrown around last night.
Sorry?
I said there were a lot of big ideas thrown around last night from all sides.
And what I love
good.
is that there was a long, serious, deep discussion about policy. That discussion on healthcare, that went on for like 35 minutes, and there were differences. There were real differences. Let's listen to a little bit of that. Because Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, they were defending their Medicare for All proposal that would do away with private insurance for some 150 million Americans.
We can create a universal health care system to give everyone basic health care for free, and I have a proposal to do it. But we don't have to go around and be the party of subtraction and telling half the country who has private health insurance that their health insurance is illegal.
Let's be clear about this. We are the Democrats. We are not about trying to take away health care from anyone. That's what the Republicans are trying to do.
That's right.
There is a contrast here, though. Yes, the Democrats have a much different position writ large than the Republicans in the White House. But, Governor, there was a split on that stage where you had Sanders and Warren who will do away with private insurance, they say, to achieve Medicare for all. And you have others who don't want that. You're among those who thinks it is the wrong position.
What I think is that we need to stay focused on expanding access to affordable health care. And it scares people when we talk about how we're going to do it overnight, because we all know that this is a complicated, sweeping change that we need to make as a country, that we are moving toward that. But we have to be serious about how we get it done. I think sometimes we lose voters' confidence that we're the capable party of doing this when we, have this kind of superficial conversation. That's why I was so glad so much time was spent on healthcare last night, where people could really see everyone on that stage is going to be focused on expanding. They might have different ideas about how to do it, but it's very different than what we have in Washington, D.C. right now, with a president who attacks healthcare, wants to get rid of coverage for pre-existing conditions. This is a fundamental difference, and I thought it was a good, healthy debate.
Do you think the Delaney's and the Bullocks and the Tim Ryans, and to a lesser extent Pete Buttigieg, who are making the case that what Warren and Sanders are trying to do is too much, too fast, do you think that they made their argument on that stage?
I think they did, and I think that it was a healthy debate. I don't know that anyone's saying they're trying to too much, too fast, but there are smart ways about going about this, and there are different, real, thoughtful ideas about how we do that. And that's a good, healthy thing. We're all focused on the same goal. We have different ways of getting there, but what sets us apart from the person in the White House right now is that we actually want to get people health care and make sure it's affordable and that people don't lose it when they're sick and need it the most.
Congresswoman, was there anybody who you think we won't see soon? Was there anybody who you thought didn't distinguish themselves enough last night?
Everybody has different opinions. I sort of want to go back to this healthcare thing for 1 minute, because I am co-chair of the Medicare for All caucus in the House, and I'm working very closely with the governor. And there's some facts that didn't come out. The UAW has endorsed our Medicare for All bill. We're not going to. I have a unique legacy. My father-in-law was the author of Social Security and was the first person that introduced Medicare for All. John Dingell introduced universal health care every Congress and sat in the chair when Medicare got passed. You got to have that vision. The governor and I talk about it. We're good friends. We talk about what the policy approaches are. But you gotta have that vision, and there are different ways to get there. But people think that their insurance is safe. My auto insurance, I worked for General Motors for 3 decades, was always much better, much cheaper than the government's ever was. But it's not safe anymore. The fact of the matter is, by 2008, the autos had become healthcare providers that built cars on the side. If you're a salaried employee inside GM, you're losing your healthcare. Now at 65, you don't have it for life.
But look, you're making a great case, okay? And maybe even a more persuasive one than some people on stage made last night. And so where did you think it got lost last night?
Well, I think that's why I say you got to have the vision. I mean, and by the way, the plan in the House doesn't totally eliminate health insurance, but it gives everybody basic coverage. And we need to remember, we are the only industrialized nation in the world that does not offer health care to all of its citizens. And our businesses are competing in a global marketplace where businesses aren't covering that cost, and our businesses have that in their cost of doing business. This is a competitive issue.
Are you considering running